That time of the show, we've listened to your voicemails, read your emails. Your turn to play with the panel. Still with us, Rachel Maddow, Harold Ford Jr., Jonathan Capehart, and Joe Scarborough. First up, Hillary in Nevada is wondering if the superdelegates are the ones to blame for all the fighting inside the Democratic Party. She writes this as we go to the quote board. The candidates are not really the ones responsible for the problems that we are seeing in the Democratic Party. In my opinion, the problem is that the superdelegates will not make their decision and put their name in one candidate's column or the other. If they would do that now instead of June, there would be a lot less problems in the Democratic Party. It is interesting, Harold, maybe you can bring in some of the thinking here about why they don't want to do this.
Well, two reasons. One, voters should make these determinations early in the process. So allowing the primaries and caucuses to go forward is a good thing. The superdelegates' role, in many ways, is designed for moments like this, when a candidate does not reach the requisite or required amount of votes. The superdelegates are to assess this and, again, step back, take a pause, and look at this very seriously, which they will do. And they have to do it in the open. Some have said this is like a closed-door, smoke-filled room. I disagree fervently. Superdelegates are elected officials, most of them. Many of them are more accountable than the delegates we have today. I dare say most watching the show tonight can probably name several, if not all of the superdelegates, because there are other senators and congressmen and governors and former presidents and vice presidents. So let the process play through. There's no need to develop and implement an overtime strategy before the game ends. When the game ends and we have a tie, or we need the superdelegates to come in, let them listen to the candidates, as my governor from Tennessee has proposed. Let them vote in the open, in the public, and let the Democrats get on with whomever the superdelegates and the majority of voters across this country have chosen.
All right, a lot of messages again today about Obama's pastor. Mary O'Sullivan wonders what will come next from Reverend Wright. To the quote board, so the good pastor has done it again, insulting Italians, this time along with the Jews. I can't wait to see what he has to say about the Irish. This stuff will kill Obama should he end up winning the nomination. Jonathan, this goes to the point about, will there be a drip, drip, drip quality to this, and will Obama have to deal with it again?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he was in the pulpit, pastor of Trinity Baptist Church, or Trinity Church, for 30 years. And you know, he's probably given most of his sermons benign, talking about brotherhood and bringing people together and helping the sick and the poor and the hungry. But there are probably going to be other snippets from sermons that could possibly come out that would be deemed also as malevolent as some of the more famous ones we've seen over the last.
But you know, Joe, as you turn this over in your mind, is this going to ultimately be about a guy who Obama chooses to help him find God, to help him find faith? Or is this going to ultimately be about, did he do this for political reasons and then found it convenient to distance himself? It's kind of a calculate. In other words, is he calculating? Does Obama look calculating here? Or is this a bad choice in judgment in terms of who you choose to lead you in faith?
It is so calculated. The decision he made, it seems to me, as from an outsider that doesn't know Barack Obama's heart, seems to be a very calculated decision by a young man in a hurry, a black man from Harvard who went to the south side of Chicago and was considered too white. So that part seems calculated, but still, people understand that. They don't mind that their politicians are that way, or calculated, or ambitious. The problem is that this speech, which we've all said is one of the most important race speeches in years, it was almost, looking back, almost too calculated. If Obama had sat down with somebody and talked about the first time he found Christ, and how it was Reverend Wright that told him about Jesus' love, and how it moved this young man who had had a troubled background, and how it moved him from being an atheist to being a believer of Jesus Christ, and my gosh, I owe so much to this guy, how could I abandon him because he saved my soul? Something like that. If he showed more of himself than being quite so analytical, being the Harvard Law Review attorney that he is, I think people might understand a little bit more than making a historic speech about race, but also a calculated and political speech about race.
Let me move on. Eric in Wisconsin has an idea for the Obama campaign that he thinks could change the race for the White House. Go to the quote board. Why doesn't Barack Obama start campaigning as if he is already the nominee? But, Rachel, we see some examples of that, right?
Yeah, we are seeing some examples of that in his economic speech, as I mentioned at the top of the show, with 4 mentions of John McCain and no mention of Hillary Clinton. There's definitely been a lot of back and forth, a lot of primary campaigning between Obama and Clinton.
And they're already putting out talking points saying that the math is was impossible for her, right?
Yes,
so they
exactly.
try to quash it.
They're trying to do their own inevitability campaign,
But
weirdly
beware,
enough, at this point.
Ask Hillary Clinton the dangers of seeming inevitable, telling Katie Couric to turn out.
How'd that work out?
Yeah,
Kaboom!
that's
It
exactly
blows up
right.
in your face.
But, and I think that either of them would love to be in the position to pivot and start paying attention to John McCain. I've been arguing that both of them ought to. It'll show Democratic voters that they're tough and they can fight and they can be a great opponent for McCain in the fall. But Obama is in a better position to do that than Clinton is, and it shows.
Right. All right, Betty in New Jersey thinks Hillary Clinton should make the history books by taking on an unexpected, prominent role. Here is what she says. Quote, why can't we consider Hillary Clinton to be the majority leader of the Senate? That would be groundbreaking. That would be a power base for her. She wouldn't lose face. Interesting point here about this, Harold, is people are thinking about, A, what levers would she have if she did get out of the race, and what could she ultimately do? She could have a tremendous role for herself going forward.
She probably could, but I would remind everybody on the panel and those watching, she's still running for president. I think this is probably the last thing on her mind. I would just, not to go back to a segment, but where I go to church, after listening to what Joe Scarborough just said and the advice he gave Senator Obama, we would say amen. You gave him good advice, and hopefully at some point that's what we will learn from Senator Obama about this relationship with Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah, but this is not... You are either a spiritual person or you are not. You either had a deep commitment, an abiding commitment to go on a spiritual journey, or you did not. So it doesn't solve the calculation problem if you decide this is how you're going to frame it. Well, it's an extension, Joe, of who you are and where what path you've been on.
But Barack Obama's told us that this man led him from a troubled youth to believing in Jesus Christ, that he transformed him, he changed his life, he made him believe in something bigger than himself. And if Barack Obama was telling the truth then, tell that to the American people. There are a lot of people that right now have some serious questions about him, serious questions about Reverend Wright, that will say, okay, I understand that. I understand that on the big issue, on the thing that matters to me most, this Reverend Wright guy got it right. That's the important side. And one other thing about Hillary Clinton, she's going to be Senate Majority Leader anyway, so she doesn't have to strike a deal with anybody. If she loses, that's right. She's going to get Harry Reid's job anyway.
All right, Stephen in Pennsylvania wants to know more about Hillary Clinton's motives, and he writes the following quote, does the panel believe Clinton is putting her own personal success ahead of the success of the Democratic Party? Rachel.
I think she's trying to win, and she thinks that she'd be the best nominee, and she'd have the best chance of beating John McCain, and she would be a better nominee for Democrats than Barack Obama was. I don't question her motives for what she's doing, but I do think that everybody gets to question the effect of what each of the candidates does. The reason that I think it would be good for Democrats for there to be a superdelegate primary is not because I believe that I could predict right now who would win that primary, but because it would end the process and thereby start the general election and then give some Democrat a chance of beating John McCain.
You can play with our panel every weeknight right here on MSNBC. The email, race08@msnbc.com. The phone number, you see it, 212-790-2299.